It's All Things Considered, member-supported Hawaii Public Radio. I'm Dave Lawrence. Today we are welcoming an artist for his first appearance with us. He is coming to town Friday, September 29th at the Blaisdell, Saturday, September 30th at the MAC, touring behind his Stony Hill. It is a great pleasure to welcome Damian Jr. Gong Marley to All Things Considered. Aloha and mahalo, my brother. Maximum respect.
Maximum respect, Dave. Thank you very much for having me.
You are quite welcome. A great thrill. I've had Kimani and Ziggy and Steven. So getting there, working towards the full circle.
Nice.
You haven't been here in a while. I'm assuming you know how big your pop is in the local culture here. You must feel right at home when you're in Hawaii, yeah?
Yes, of course. And even myself, I've had quite some success there over the years in terms of my career. Hawaii is one of the first places that I ever had a hit song with my first album back in '96. Of course, it goes without saying that they embrace my father's music, but they've had a special embracing of my music also.
And you've got this new record, Stony Hill. Talk about some of the inspirations, Damian, that led to this.
The title Stony Hill refers to a place in Jamaica where I grew up, speaking to the story of the history of my family, being that my father came from very humble beginnings and was able to have a son like myself who was raised in Stony Hill, which is a privileged area in Jamaica. Inspiration from that story is kind of like a common thread throughout the album, which is really to say that we can make it out, we can better ourselves, we can reach to our aspirations and attain our dreams. So that is, I would say, one of the common themes.
On that note of what you were referring to, there's a great term, it goes back into your history a bit, halfway tree. It's not just the title of your second record, but continuing with what you were talking about, it's an autobiographical term to describe it as a child of Cindy and Bob, yeah?
Definitely, because again, Halfway Tree is a location in Jamaica that is kind of in the middle between the rougher area and the nicer area. And my dad was from the rough side of the town, and my mom was from the nicer side of town. Halfway Tree is like a metaphor for myself being where those two worlds meet. So I'm almost saying like I am that meeting point between those two different parts of society.
Try to paint a picture as a child when you describe what it was like around where you lived.
Well, it was up in the hills. The houses on the street that I grew up on would have, for the most part, manicured lawns, quite a bit of land. So most of these would be like 1 acre lots or so. I wouldn't say mansions, but well-sized houses, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom houses, nice architecture kind of thing. Not a lot of crime, even though those areas would be targets for thieves at times, like Christmas time or whatever it be. But in general, compared to the rest of the city, this is a pretty crime-free part of town.
And this is a suburb of Kingston?
This is in the hillside overlooking Kingston. Consider it to be part of the Kingston area, or you call it St. Andrew, is the parish that it's in. And then in these areas, you have a lot of well-off people, so you get nicer cars than you'd see in other areas. BMWs, Land Cruisers, this kind of thing.
What a difference from your father, huh?
Well, definitely. I mean, of course, the years that he was growing up in the first place, Jamaica definitely wasn't even as it developed. But he grew up in the countryside, so he would be used to donkeys and these kind of things as a child growing up, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. But on the same note, my father is also one of the first people to bring a BMW into Jamaica.
Well, he thought that car was made for him, BMW, Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Well, for sure. Yeah, man.
The music, when does it give you the bug?
That really started to happen when I was a teenager, around 13 or so. And really, that's based upon dancehall culture in Jamaica. Of course, I grew up knowing my family's music and whatever my mother would play in the house. But dancehall music is really the first music I started to buy for myself. People like Shabba Ranks and Super Cat. And coming up in music, I had a lot of inspiration outside of my family. But for example, myself and Kimani, we don't play guitar on stage. My other brothers do. And that is kind of from, again, being a fan of dancehall music and wanting to be like those artists as opposed to wanting to be like how my dad would perform.
Thinking about your siblings, very colorful family and great guys to spend time with. They all add different ways they incorporate, let's say, your father into the set and into their lives. When you go to make a set, talk about the way that you incorporate him into your routine.
Well, depends on what the set is needing. A lot of things get taken into consideration. The tempo of the songs, the mood of the songs, the lyrics of the songs, all of these things. For example, the other day we went to Africa. Obviously, we wanted to play a song like Africa Unite, which is fitting for that occasion. Also, one of the songs that I added to my set of my father's songs that I didn't usually do before is This Love. Yeah, which I wanted that one because it was an up-tempo beat And it was like a sing-along song, as opposed to when you're doing like Zion Train, which is not really a sing-along song. So a lot of the times it just depends on what the set needs to help it and what my vibe is at the time too. More consistent than anything else, I do War and No More Trouble because of the statements that are in those songs.
Yeah, that's the thing. Your pop's music has had such a profound impact on so many people, and you described it well. Depending on what you need that night, you go with a different message. You got a party vibe, he's got the song for that. You got a vibe about oppressed people needing someone to rally them and stand up, he's got a song for that, huh? I mean, he's just got it covered. And
absolutely.
That's cool how you use it for the right flavor. That's kind of like seasoning, huh? When you're cooking, Damian, it's like there's a lot of seasoning.
Exactly. That's a great comparison.
You don't throw it all in at once or your guests are going to look at you kind of funny. And speaking of that, what an incredible thing Super Heavy was. And this is a couple years back, but for folks who haven't paid as much attention to it, talk about a strange collection of seasonings. Mick Jagger, Joss Stone, Dave Stewart, A.R. Rahman, hopefully I'm pronouncing his last name right.
Yeah, Rahman.
Yeah. You guys dropped an album in 2011. Obviously, for all of us who are on the outside, we don't know anything. Tell us, explain in a story form.
So the story goes like this, really, that Dave Stewart was in Jamaica. And in Jamaica, a lot of the times you'll have sound systems playing. So like you're hearing different parties from different neighborhoods in your surroundings. So he was hearing two parties happening at the same time, playing different music. And that kind of sparked the idea to him. He wanted to try to get together a bunch of musicians from different genres. He's close with Mick and whatnot, so they kind of got together and started brainstorming and then invited me in to be the reggae element in the mix. So I flew out to LA. And funnily enough, that's the same time I started working on Distant Relatives with Nas. So I would be in the studio with the Super Heavy collective from around 2 o'clock in the day till around 10 in the night. And then I would go to another studio and then be in that room with Nas from 10 until whatever time we fell asleep.
Amazing.
Yes. Interesting time because I learned a lot being around the two different camps and two different sides of the coin in terms of more rock-oriented with Mick and that group. And of course, Nas is the more urban hip-hop youth. So it was a great learning experience and very inspirational.
Were you a big Stones fan ever? It's got to be, is it a thrill for you to be standing there working with a guy like Mick Jagger?
You know, not so familiar with a lot of their music. I mean, of course, 1 and 2 songs I would recognize, and I might know a few more songs if he had played me some of their music. But obviously, you know, I knew who Mick Jagger was. You know, he transcends his own music. You know
right.
what I mean?
No question.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I knew the magnitude of who I was dealing with, but I couldn't sing along with a Rolling Stone album.
Yeah, I get you. And the cool thing is those cats are way into reggae. I mean, Mick, Keith.
And I was aware of all of that history before hooking up with them also, because I knew that they had done some work with Peter Tosh, and I'd even met with my dad on 1 or 2 occasions. Particular
fun experiences during downtimes that you remember that just make you smile or laugh, or that you learned something really valuable? 2
things I can say. I mean, something I can point out as a direct lesson as a result of the Super Heavy sessions was what different guitars sound like. You'd be on tour with like a rock group. You see them have like 20 guitars lined up to use for one show. And we only use 1 or 2. I was always trying to figure out why they're so excessive with their guitars. Well, being in the studio with Super Heavy, you can really hear the difference in the tone and the sound of each guitar.
Right.
And it's quite a big change between each guitar that they would use. So that taught me something even in terms of musical production, where I understand now more the difference in tones between different styles of guitars. You know what I mean?
Totally.
The other thing that was like a fun memory, it was really just watching Mick and his energy. Like he'd be listening back to songs and eating chocolate chip cookies and dancing around the studio. His energy is just well up, especially for a man who of his age. But just for anybody, he is very full of energy, and that's something where I'd love to be that way when I reach to that stage of my life, you know?
Those are great lessons. I couldn't have asked for a better answer to a question. Listen to you. Are there plans for a follow-up with that, or you're just going to wait and see?
No immediate plans right now. Anything's possible, but we haven't been discussing anything like that at the moment.
When you come to town, I really hope we can hook up and maybe do a little follow-up interview. We're public radio, so we're not some big commercial enterprise. And
yeah, man, I would love that, man. That would be cool.
I give you a hug, a high five. I'll reach out to your people. You're really fun to talk to, really nice guy. And
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, man. Likewise myself, so thank you. Yo, aloha. This is Damian Marley, and you're listening to my good friend, Dave Lawrence. Keep it locked. Love.